All right, Coach Kendra, we're on air. Kick us off.
Excellent. Great to be here with you. I'm excited to talk about something that we talk amongst ourselves about quite a bit behind the scenes, wanting to be sure we get things right. But perhaps this is one of the only times we've been able to talk about it openly and shared more about the certification process. So I'd love for you to tell us, um, big picture, how did the certification process come to be?
Yeah, well, I actually think this might be the first video and first time people see the people behind Coach Hamik. A lot of coaches join and they jump to the certification first and maybe don't know that Coach Hamik is a community of coaches who work all over the world. I'm recording from my home office. Kendra is recording from her kitchen in Corpus Christi. I'm in New York City. And our mission is to make coaching the dominant form of personal development. That if someone is going to reach for a book or a class, we want them to think, well, I could just reach for a coach instead. And one of the ways that we try to make that happen is to find more accessible, maybe entry-level forms of coaching. And what we had invented, I think really, either you could say either invented or at least perfected, is a form of text-based daily coaching around behavior change. So this isn't facilitated ICF or CTI style identity or belief level coaching. This is very behavioral, form a new habit. And no one before us had figured out how to do that in a media format other than face-to-face. We figured out how to do it over essentially text messaging or email or in our app, a messaging system in our app. And we started with a group of coaches. Kendra is one of those coaches. And we really, through trial and error on a community that we already had, figured out what it takes to build a habit with someone. And then that's where the certification came from. So I think a lot of people want to know, how do we, like, why is the certification good? Or like, where did it come from? And I think that they're expecting us to talk about science first. And I want everyone to pause and say, well, what's a different thing I could talk about that's not science and not like gut? What's something else that's credible? And the credible thing is data. We have more than 1 million coaching interactions, all recorded because it's all text-based and it all went through our platform. And what we honed in on is, why do some coaches keep their clients longer than other coaches? And we found this group of coaches early on that were keeping their clients for 90 days, 120 days, 180 days. Sometimes, it turns out some of those clients stayed with them for a year. And that was very different from the average coach we found, who had a lot of knowledge about habits, but was only keeping their client for 30 days or 40 days. So the certification is about, what do those coaches that keep their clients 3 times longer than the average coach, what were they doing? And how do we say we only want to offer those power coaches? So the certification is really about training and verifying for you and for us that you're at that higher level.
So can I poke on that a little bit?
Absolutely.
In that the certification is specific to our platform. In other words,
Yes.
It's not necessarily a coach grade in their effectiveness in other forms of coaching. It is specifically based on data points as they relate to chat-based coaching on the
Right.
Coach.me platform. So if somebody gets feedback that it's not a great fit, we're not necessarily saying they're a bad coach. We're just saying their type of interactions aren't a good fit for our platform.
Right. I think, Kendra, this is something that you and I are probably pretty sensitive to, because we're recording the video after having certified more than 1,000 people at this point. And more than 1,000 people also have not been certified because they didn't pass. The test actually has, it might surprise you when you get into it, but it actually has a very high failure rate. More than half of people fail. And failure comes with emotion, and no one likes to fail. We're all high achievers. And so I think we're recording this partly to say a little bit more kindly up front that the evaluation, as you say, is not personal. It's predictive, is maybe a better way of saying it. It's predictive of how successful you will be with clients. And what I've never quite been able to pump people up for the idea that it's actually a real blessing and service. I wish everyone told me beforehand how successful I was going to be if they could. And so if you do not pass the first time through, what you should be thinking to yourself is, oh, this is good information. I should do a little bit more study because I need that next level is where I'll be more successful with clients and professionally in terms of revenue.
So one thing I'd like to add, if it's okay, is I think the testing process is one of the best examples of growth mindset versus fixed mindset that I've ever seen in practice. And I also think that the one of kind of the inherent requirements of being a good coach is growth mindset ourselves, sure. And that humility to always keep learning, because it's actually quite intense to be a coach and to coach the same person for a long period of time. It really requires the coach to continue growing as well, which is different than other types of coaching. So sort of baked in is this notion that it's a journey of learning and you're really never done. And so if you ever need too much I just want to be done with this and move on to the next step, in a way you're missing a lot of the point, in that continual willingness to learn is the next step, that continual willingness to get feedback and say, ooh, ouch, maybe that interaction with that client didn't go so well. Perhaps there's a new technique I need to learn to help clients get over that hurdle, whatever it might be. The test also measures your ability to get feedback, adapt, and continue moving forward, right? The whole process.
When you say test, I mean the overall certification program, right?
Right.
I think that's right. And that's the kind of the power of joining a community here of other coaches through the Slack where we hang out. Like, this is a place that wants to help you grow as a coach. And the certification is one example of that. I also think this is why you were emphasizing earlier that this is a different form of coaching, and to really prep yourself for, I'm ready to look at coaching in a different way. And usually when I'm describing the difference to other coaches, I'm saying we just turned the coaching you already do, we turned it inside out. So normally coaching starts with quite a bit of getting to know you and assessment. And we found that just doesn't work online because there's too much calendar time between messages. It's like, I ask you a question, then I go to bed, you respond, then you go to bed. And then suddenly we're 5 days later and we still don't really know each other. That it just is too slow. And we turned it inside out by starting with the action first. The clients, for habit-based behavioral coaching, they've already self-identified. They've said, I think this habit will change my life. And so you can put them on the course of action on day one. What's the smallest step you can take towards that habit tomorrow? And punt on the assessment till week 2 or 3 or 4, because you will find by watching someone try to pick up a habit, you will find the bigger issues, right? So that's like we flipped it by the change happens first and the assessment happens second. And that's actually what allowed that's what allowed coaching to flourish in this mindset. And that's what the training that you're going to go through, that the listeners are going to go through here is about.
And perhaps the more coach training that you've had, the more counterintuitive that could be. So, anybody fits on that journey, but sometimes having more experience in a different format might make it harder to learn this format versus coming from a power user, so to speak, who we already speak the native language, kind of in how to approach it.
That's right. The experience is a predictor of having more trouble here. And that's why we're going on and on about failure rates. Kendra, should we jump into like what are the parts of the certification and how should people be thinking about those?
Absolutely. I like that. So let's talk about the test first, since that's perhaps the first. I think most coaches choose that first as the first step out of the four. So there's four components to the certification process. There's the exam, which actually has two parts: the multiple choice and the essay. There's the profile review. There's the transcript review of experience as a client, and then there's the transcript review of 4 experiences as a coach. So let's do the exam first, the multiple choice, and then the essay.
Yeah, I mean, the exam is a good place to start because we baked a lot of the training material into the exam. We teach you a concept, we ask you a question about it. The challenge is that we want you to get almost all the questions right, which is different than a lot of multiple choice questions. And the other challenge, and this is again, knowing yourself as a coach, is you flipped formats. An experienced coach, so much of their intelligence is an emotional and a visual intelligence. How I'm talking to you, I'm listening to you, I'm reading your body language. What we're training or certifying is a completely text-based format. And so we are testing in the multiple choice reading comprehension. I mean, there's no way around it. You can't be a good coach in this format if you don't read carefully. And that's just a heads up, because I want everyone to pass. That's I think, kind of a hidden element of the multiple choice questions. But I think the multiple choice is a good place to start. But if you get tripped up there, probably you should move on to being coached yourself, because then you'll see how an experienced coach handles this stuff. And I think the format will start to make more sense to you.
I think that's the answer for getting tripped up on any of the elements, is just interact with it more, get comfortable with it. If your first exposure to Coach.me is I want to become a coach, that's awesome. But take that first month to experience it as a client and even as a user, right? Checking in, setting up your dashboard, playing around with plans, all the sort of the free side of the app, if you will. There's a ton of features baked into that when you understand them makes coaching a little more intuitive as well. So I'd say that to anybody. If you're feeling stuck, go get coached and try out different features. I think that's the answer for just about any predicament. So let's also talk about the essay.
I mean, the essay is the essay. It's first, thankfully, it's not a long essay. I mean, it might be a 300-word essay that generally is what is required there. But the essay is going to be the first response to a client, and generally it's important. It's sort of the crucial step, and but I don't grade them, so maybe I shouldn't talk about them. Maybe Coach Kendra, who grades them.
Yeah, so this is the source of most of my hate mail. So I think of the essay, if the multiple choice, to be honest, it kind of gives you the answer. It's like an open book test, right? Yeah. The essay, the multiple choice is a bit like an open book test. Then you get to the essay, and to me, it's like bumper bowling, but they remove the guardrails, and now you're supposed to bowl all on your own and get pretty close to a strike, right? We grade it on a 10-point scale. A 7 is the required passing score, and there's certain elements that we're looking for. And I don't think we want to give those away too specifically, but you've already alluded to some of them, in that in general, you want to capture that client's initial momentum and help them keep moving forward and not get too bogged down in a get to know you phase.
Well, there you go. That's like half of it right there. Is if you just ask for more information, I think you missed one of the key points of what we're trying to get across. Well, I say let's not say anymore. I mean, the people have, that's what the training is for. And you're not
And
going to
just to
learn
go
it.
back,
Yeah.
and just to go back, that's because in actual experience, you lose clients if you stay in that mode, right? Can we just be direct? It's not because we want to see, we're bad English teachers and we want to see essays written a certain way. It's because we know that if you spend too much time in a get to know you phase with a client, you're gonna lose them, right? The data tell us that.
It's you know, so as more background on the company, I come from a tech background and surrounded by a lot of entrepreneurs who are very motivated by money. And I mean, so you would be more successful. It's like, you will make more money. The advice, we're like constantly trying to give advice to like help you make more money as a coach. But you're a coach because you want to help people. And every time we looked at retention, we like, you know, we said, all right, well, this is what the data says. Let's go look at the transcripts. We're like, oh, it makes a lot of sense. Clients stay with coaches that are helping them, and they cancel clients that they feel like are not. So making more money and helping the client and being a better coach and making more of an impact in people's lives, it's all the exact same thing.
Perfect. All right. So I think we've kind of beat the test portion to death. Let's talk about the profile review. So really, probably the easiest element of the certification, but there's a few kind of quirky things that I think we should also explain. So in grading the profile reviews, one of the things that will cause us to not approve a profile is if the cover picture has funky spacing or text, right? Because we're a platform that's both mobile and web. And so I've seen people optimize exactly for their browser on the web, but then if you go look at that on a mobile device, it's pretty wonky. Yeah. So again, the motivation there isn't because we don't like or dislike people. It's because there's certain elements we know mess with the client experience.
Yeah. I think I am an opinionated person, but the certification is not where I inflict that on people. So again, over and over again, there's a purpose behind everything, and that purpose is always to make you more successful.
And there's a training document on profiles, but I'll share one more tip that sometimes trips up folks, and that's in your package descriptions, in your goal descriptions. Put some meat there. Explain why you coach that goal, why you care about that goal, a little bit of the how you coach that goal. That's really usually a client's first thing they're seeing about you. And so you want that to be, think of it like a sales page, a mini sales page. You want to give them enough information to connect with you and understand that you're passionate about this goal that you're teaching. So if it's, 10 words, that's probably not going to be successful. If we kick that back to you, it's an indication that you're probably not going to have very many people buy based off of that.
Sure.
Okay. Anything more you want to add on profiles?
No, I believe you have covered it.
All right. So let's talk about, we alluded to the element of getting experience as a client.
Right.
And so one of the cool things is you provide that for free, included in the coaching package.
Right. So the directions are that you hire a coach, although you don't have to pay out of pocket, it's included in your coaching membership, and you form one new habit. A lot of coaches see a different opportunity, which is to hire a coach and then ask that coach to help them pass the exam. That's different. Like, you can do that, and that's what Slack is for. You don't even need to hire a coach to get that sort of feedback from other coaches. And the other reason not to do that is that doesn't match what the request of the certification. What we want is for you to have an intuitive and empathic understanding, and not just intuitive and empathic, but like literal fact-based understanding of what a client will go through with a coach, because we think you'll be a better coach if you can do that. And so maybe you think, well, do I have a habit I want to change right now? If you don't, then just wait. Like everyone eventually will think of some habit that's actually really meaningful to you. So the best way to go through that part of the certification is, as authentically as possible, put yourself in the mindset of the client, of being a client. You are a client, and then you'll get to experience what the rest of the certification is about. You'll get to experience how other coaches tackle certain situations. It's really, you'll learn a lot, and at the end, you'll have a new habit.
Absolutely. So again, one of the opportunities to avoid a pitfall that I want to share is the frequency of engagement. So one of the things unique about chat coaching is how often we talk to each other. So we're talking to our clients daily, sometimes every other day, depending on their preference. But in general, it's a very frequent interaction. Whereas, you know, in previous types of coaching, maybe you have a weekly call and that's a lot. Maybe you even have a monthly call. So one of the difference in chat-based coaching is the frequency of the interaction. And so we're also looking for that commitment from you as a client. In other words, during this client experience, you should be engaging, I'd say at least every 2 or 3 days, to demonstrate that you have competency in the platform and that are willing to go in the platform every 2 or 3 days. If you're not willing to do it as a client, you're probably not willing to do it as a coach. And again, you're going to have unhappy clients at that stage. So sometimes some of the failure modes, it's like, oh, I hired a coach for a month and there's 2 interactions, you know, over the course of a month. So you gotta be engaged. Hiring the coach is not completing the elements. Successfully completing a month's worth of coaching and developing a new habit, showing a growth mindset, you know, showing a willingness to learn. Those are the elements that we're looking for in that component of the certification.
Can I throw one more in there?
Absolutely.
How do you feel about your fellow coaches? I think there's this, sometimes there's a very transactional feeling from a coach who's going through certification. You know, me, what can I have? And when we throw you into this section of the certification, you're having direct contact with one of your peers, someone whose time is valuable, who has a track record of success, but more importantly, really cares about this community here. And this, you know, like, this is part of being respectful to them. I think this is part of being part of this community. And I wanted to use that as a little bit of a preface for, we give you a coupon code for 1 month of coaching. It might take you more than 1 month. And all that means is that that's time you're going to have to pay in addition. And my opinion is that that's completely fair. You have this wonderful coach on the other end who you want to get paid for their time. And I think that's sort of like coaches using each other's time and understanding when someone is volunteering for them and when, you know, they're on the, you know, it's their job and they should get paid. It's like, as a coach, you want to get paid. And I think when you're using other coaches, you want to make sure that they're getting paid. And so although we're giving you a free month, we are paying for that coach for their time on the back end. And when you go into a month 2 or 3, or maybe you love the coach and you stick with them for a whole year, that's all time that, you know, you'll end up paying for. And just, that's a heads up, you know, that I don't want people to be caught off guard by that.
Good point. All right. Usually the last and final element for the certification is to successfully coach 4 clients, showing best practices to a milestone, to the creation of a new habit or skill. And let's talk first about, again, the elements that we're looking for, and then we'll circle back to some of the unique ways that we actually help you get your first 4 clients in some cases
Sure.
to demonstrate that. So again, the elements are often the same as we're looking for in the experience side, right? So appropriate frequent engagement, appropriate onboarding, right? We cover that in the essay portion. The start, those first 3 to 4 messages are perhaps the most critical. We really set the stage for client success and our own success in those first few interactions. So we're looking at those, and then we're looking at our ability to keep a client engaged, right? Different strategies. If a client kind of starts to veer and get busy, how do we pull them back? All those different techniques that we teach in the training module. Can we actually help a client, achieve their goal? And can we describe our package in a way that actually defines a goal in a meaningful way, which is one of the first elements of the momentum method. So those are the things that we're looking for. And again, it's not our personal opinions. It's what the data show us. If you do these things, you're likely to keep clients longer. They're likely to be happy. You're going to make more money. The platform's going to be successful. We keep repeating that, but it's true that all of these elements came from analysis of the data. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the unique ways that you help folks get those first 4 clients, or that we help make those connections?
Yes. First is in the Slack, which is an online chat room. Slack is a popular platform, but you've either heard of it or not. But it's a very nice, pleasant online chat room where the coaches in our community help each other. And there's a channel there called Looking for a Coach. And that's where you can offer to coach other coaches. And generally, they're doing you a favor. And so generally, you're offering to coach them for free as part of getting certified. And so we have a promo code that you can give them where they can sign up for you and not have to use their credit card. That's, I think, the most common place. Although I would like to encourage people that if you're coaching someone to get certified and they ask you to coach you, say no. It's better. It just ends up getting really confusing to see 2 people alternating between being each other's coach and being each other's client. They don't do that. Rather,
if you're going to do that, sequence it. Do one for 30 days and the next one for 30 days.
They have to be very separate, or we'll just get completely lost when we get to the review stage. That's the number one. The number 2 is that we have a well-tested, what we would call a client prospecting script. There's actually a training that we give as part of, we just did recently as part of a marketing boot camp. And it's literally send this email to these people like your Facebook friends, your former acquaintances. Use that email to get them on the phone, follow this script on the phone, and either they will know someone who should be your client, or they will decide that they want to be your client. And those 2 methods are going to get you your first 4 clients. And actually, it's a good introduction to the reality of coaching. Coaching is a solo entrepreneur business where you are responsible both for being a great coach and for running a coaching business where you find clients. So we like to help bring clients, but we don't take away the need for you to learn how to do that yourself. And because we know that, we try to give great training for that.
So I want to add one other idea in that if you're struggling to get 4 folks, sometimes the best answer is to go really simple. And so I'll share, when I first started coaching, I coached most often on how to floss. So I know that, may sound completely ridiculous now, but it was a very meaningful goal for me. It was something, a habit I tackled in my 30s that I had really struggled with before, and led to some really good health benefits. And as I talk to people about it, they're like, oh, well, I'd kind of like to floss too. And so my initial interactions, I had a write-up in Wired actually that reminded me of this about flossing. So what we know and coach on, sometimes we make it dense, or we make it complicated, or we're not sure exactly what the behavior that we're going to help people with. And so it can be fuzzier. That's an indication that often makes it hard to get clients. If it's fuzzy about, well, what am I actually going to learn in your coaching, you might go the opposite way. And in particular for your certification, make it super simple. Some daily habit that you're really good at, that your friends and family might want to learn from you as well. So I think don't make it so complicated. Sometimes is a helpful tip as well.
I mean, that's such a great point. The certification is for a method of coaching for a habit. It's not coach life purpose. Although maybe that comes up along the way. It's not coach build a business. It's a habit. It's a very defined behavior change. And so, yeah, floss is a habit. And I think you're seeing people with much more wishy-washy definitions.
Yes.
And just bring it back.
Yeah. So I could say, I want to coach on improving your health. Okay, great. But what does that actually mean? Or you could say, no, if I'm going to coach on flossing, I'm going to coach on getting to bed on time. I'm going to coach on walking around the block every day, or walking for 5 minutes a day. In the context of the area that you're passionate about, what are some behaviors that in general are good for everyone, that you can break that down into? And again, you're going to be more successful on the platform if you can describe the behaviors in a non-fuzzy way, in a way that somebody says, yeah, I'd like to go to bed on time and wake up on time. Great. You're the coach for me. If you have trouble getting the first 4, that's kind of an indication that you may have trouble getting the next 4 and the next 4 after that. So pay attention to that part of the process, and getting simpler is often an answer.
Perfect. Is there more that we need to share? This seems like a lot of important information.
I think this was pretty solid. Good review of the 4 elements, and hopefully this is helpful to folks to go behind the curtain a little bit and understand the why behind each of those.
All right. Well, thank you, Kendra, and we'll see you during certification.
All right.